Hello, my name is Shawn and I'm a Design Technology Specialist in Civil and Infrastructure with MG Technology Partners. I've got 20 years of experience with Autodesk products. I've been using AutoCAD since 1998 and Civil 3D since 2006. Today's presentation is entitled Getting Organized with SheetSet Manager in Civil 3D Plan Production. And if you're new to the idea of SheetSet Manager, the first thing to know about SheetSets for use with AutoCAD and Civil 3D is that it's not difficult to set them up. You can begin learning about the process and capabilities of this functionality as you create your very first sheet set. And this first sheet set can be started by using layouts you already have in a drawing template file, or in a project you've completed recently, or even in a project you're currently working on. Since you're here, I'll assume you haven't implemented SheetSet Manager but are thinking about doing it, so I want to jump right in without a complicated introduction to take full advantage of the time we have today. To that end, I'm going to start right away by demonstrating with an easy example. I'm going to start a new sheet set from an established project file I have that already contains layouts, which is a great approach for someone new to using sheet sets and the SheetSet Manager because it's easy, and like I said, we'll be learning about the capabilities of the functionality along the way. As an aside, to align expectations, I'm not going to talk about the setup of plan production templates in Civil 3D for plan and profile sheets, except in the context of how SheetSet Manager fits into the equation. So I'll be demonstrating the use of the Civil 3D plan production, plan, and profile sheet creation process toward the end of this presentation. I just won't be discussing the Civil 3D side of it with regards to Civil 3D styles and settings. Today's focus is completely on the SheetSet Manager itself and its capabilities and setup. To begin, I'll open my project file and orient myself to the current situation. In this file, started from my company's main design template originally, I have a set of layouts for many of the pages I plan to include in my final plan set to be submitted for review to the jurisdiction where my project is located. Whether I plan to print to paper or create a PDF plan set, or both, the SheetSet Manager will be an invaluable tool for organizing and printing my sheets, and even for collaborating with others on larger design teams if necessary. As you can see, my design file is fairly new. I'm in the early stages of design, and so currently it consists of my model as it's progressed so far in model space, and 7 layouts that I've either set up in this project or that were populated automatically when I started this drawing from my company design template. Either way, the layouts I currently have in this file are already populated with my title block and certain notes and legends my hypothetical company typically uses for each type of sheet in one of our usual plan sets. My company's title block is eventually going to become an especially important part of the equation as I nail down the sheet set functionality I want to end up with, to include sheet sets that update automatically with key information used on each sheet in the set, as I'll demonstrate soon. I'll return to this subject to show you more about how to construct an automated title block in a few minutes. I want to pause to reiterate that everything you see here in my current design drawing, minus the model elements in model space, can be placed in this design file via my Civil 3D design template. In fact, in this very example, each layout set to the correct paper size and assigned to the plotter I usually plot to existed in my template, and therefore populated in this drawing automatically when I started this design file from my template. An easy way to create a design template like the one I started my drawing from is to take a design file you've previously deemed a success and do a save as on it and save it with a DWT file extension. This creates a drawing template file. Users can then create design files like the one I'm exhibiting here using the new command. The sole function of the new command is to create copies of a DWT file without actually opening it, so that it will not be altered. The file that results, the copy, is a DWG file. In other words, it's given the DWG extension. So it's not a DWT file, but it contains everything that was contained in the DWT file, from settings to layout tabs to blocks like title blocks, as well as model elements if they exist there, which is why it's good to remove any model objects from the template right away if you create it from a previous project. In fact, you'll want to purge or remove anything you don't want propagating from template to project from your new DWT file. If you're worried about accidentally including lots of incorrect settings from a design file, an alternative is to start your DWT file from a blank CAD file like the acad.dwt, which comes with Civil 3D and AutoCAD out of the box, and start your DWT file from that. That way, you can populate it with only the settings, layouts, layers, blocks, including title blocks, etc., things that you want it to contain, so that drawings created from it don't contain extra, unneeded, or confusing elements and settings that need to be changed each time you start a new project from your template. Okay, so enough about design templates. Let's return to the idea of learning how to use the SheetSet Manager. As I said before, regardless of my design template, I'm at a point right now where I've got a viable drawing file that includes several layouts I'd like to include in my plan set. They're set up just the way I want already, even if they may require additional editing as the project progresses. So right now is as good a time as any to set up my first sheet set with the goal of using this first sheet set as a template of sorts itself. That's right, the sheet set I'm about to create, my very first sheet set, can itself become a seed file for future sheet sets. It doesn't matter that my design isn't done yet, even if the layouts themselves require changes. What does matter is what I do with the settings I configure for this first sheet set as I create it and after. So how do I begin? Whether I plan to use the first sheet set I'm about to create as a template sheet set or not, my first task is to bring up the tool I need to efficiently manage and work with sheets and sheet sets. So the tool is appropriately called the Sheet Set Manager, and it's a palette within AutoCAD and Civil 3D. The Sheet Set Manager palette can be launched by selecting an icon from the ribbon located here in Civil 3D on the drop-down at the bottom of the Palettes panel on the Home tab. It looks like a partially rolled up plan sheet, and if your AutoCAD tooltips are turned on, you'll see its name and some information about it appear when you hover over the icon. Alternately, you can type SSM at the command line prompt to conjure it. Either way, once the manager is open, take a moment to soak it in. It's not very complicated, but it is powerful. It consists of a few tabs, a few command buttons located in drop-down menus, and some right-click menus containing additional commands. When it first opens, we should be on the Sheet List tab by default, but there are two other tabs, the Sheet Views tab and the Model Views tab, which we'll return to later. Regarding the commands located in drop-down menus, there are a couple of as-yet unresponsive drop-downs in the upper right-hand corner of the dialog, as well as a drop-down here in the cell containing the word Open. This drop-down is functional right off the bat, so let's start here. Notice we can open a recently used sheet set or use the Open command itself to browse to a file, or we can start a new sheet set. Since we want to create our first sheet set right now, this is the command for us. Selecting New Sheet Set launches an AutoCAD wizard containing 4 pages. On the first page, the Begin page, we can create a sheet set using either an example sheet set or we can create one from existing drawings. Once we have an example sheet set or seed file, aka a template, we can use the example sheet set command in the future. But since this is our first one and we have an existing drawing with layouts already, I'll choose existing drawings this first time out. In this Choose Your Own Adventure scenario, we get the Sheet Set Details page, the second page in the wizard because we're starting from existing drawings. Here, users are given the opportunity to name the new sheet set, give it a description, and store the sheet set file somewhere. This is a different kind of file, by the way. It's a file with the extension DST, and really a sheet set only consists of a couple of things: a list of the drawings our layouts are coming from, and some additional settings or properties for the sheet set. In fact, I can populate some of these properties now, or come back and populate and adjust them later using the Sheet Set Properties button at the bottom of this wizard page. Here we can verify or change file locations that contribute to the sheet set, and add custom properties to the sheet set using the Edit Custom Properties button. I'll return to this dialog box from inside the sheet set later to explain further. On the third page of the wizard, I can browse for the drawing file whose layouts I'd first like to add to the sheet set using the Browse button. The resulting dialog asks me if I'd like to choose a folder containing drawings with the layouts in them that I want to include in my sheet set. I'll either do that here now, or I'll skip it for now and bring the layouts in from my current design file after the fact. I'm choosing to bring them in after the fact so I can pick just the layouts I want from my current design file. Then I'll click Next and go to the last page of the wizard to confirm my choices on the previous pages, and then I'll click Finish to exit the wizard. When my new sheet set appears in the Sheet Set Manager, I'll see that I can right-click on its name and access several commands for creating additional sheets and something called subsets, as well as print my sheets using the AutoCAD Publish command. Also, I can return to the properties of my sheet set and make general changes to pathing for certain files contributing to the set, or add and manage custom properties I create myself, as I mentioned. The command I want right now to add additional sheets of my choosing is Import Layout as Sheet. I'll use this command to add just the layouts I want from my design file or any other file in my project that has layouts I need to include in the set. I'm not in any way limited to certain drawings or templates for the purpose of adding more sheets. I can add layouts from any drawing file or template file. When I start the command, I'll browse to my current drawing. Its layouts each appear in the dialog box, and I'll place a check mark next to any sheet I want to include. In this case, I won't leave any out, but I could if there were sheets I don't need in the set. Once the sheets are loaded into my set, I can right-click on any layout contained in the set and choose Open to go to any sheet. Even if the drawing is closed, and here I'll close the current drawing to demonstrate, when I right-click and choose Open from the Sheet Set Manager, the drawing that contains a layout I want to edit will open, and that layout will be shown as the current layout on screen. The sheet set is already proving worthwhile simply as a single point of access to files and layouts contained in the set, which is especially handy if sheets in the set are coming from multiple different drawing files. In other words, when I'm editing and preparing plan sets over the days or weeks leading up to a submittal, I don't have to scramble around using the AutoCAD Open command all the time, opening files in potentially disparate locations manually. The sheet set can become my central file access tool for all of the layouts in this project's plan set. And publishing from the sheet set manager is better than printing individual sheets using the print or plot command as well. The publish command allows me to send all of the sheets from the sheet set or from a subset to the printer at the same time. To do this at any time, I can again simply right-click on a sheet set name and access the batch plotting features in AutoCAD. And I can print just a single sheet from here if needed as well, again also by right-clicking on a particular layout name. Another thing I can do right away already is begin to organize my sheet naming. If I right-click on a layout, I can choose Rename and Renumber to update the sheet names in the sheet set so that they're consistent with my naming convention for the project. In this example, I'll add a sheet number in the blank number cell here to match the numbering convention I'm using. I'll call this top one C1.1 and then title it Demolition Plan. We'll see how this plays into my game plan for sheet labeling automation later as well. For now, I just want to give it the correct sheet title for inclusion in my current project's plan set. I'll also update the actual layout tab name to be C1.1 Demo. I can see the folder path for the file this layout resides in, and I can even use some of the rename options down below here to rename the layout or the drawing's file name to match the sheet title I just edited above. I don't want to do that in this case because I'm happy with the layout name I've given here and with the design file drawing name I already have, which I can see here. So now I'll finish renaming and renumbering the rest of these sheets. After I rename and renumber each page, I can simply press the Next button to rename and renumber the next sheet as well, which is again another convenience of using the Sheet Set Manager. Either before or after I rename and renumber the sheets, I can rearrange the order of the layouts in my set with a simple drag and drop, which is also very convenient. And I can use the Sheet Set Manager to add something I mentioned but haven't explained yet, subsets. This allows me to organize my sheet set into subheading categories. The way my hypothetical company organizes our plan sheets, we usually divide the plans into a construction plan subgroup with C in the page numbering regime and a landscape plan subgroup with pages that include L in the page numbering, and I can use the Sheet Set Manager to create a separate subset for each subgrouping category by right-clicking on the sheet set name and choosing New Subset. In the resulting dialog, I'll name my first new subset Construction, and then I'll repeat the process to create one called Landscape. Then I'll drag and drop my layouts into the appropriate subset to separate the set into these two categories of plan type. To be clear, it's not necessary to create subsets, but the beauty of subsets is that I now have the option of right-clicking on a particular subset heading and sending just the sheets from one subset or another to the printer as a group, without printing the sheets from other subsets. Yet another convenience of using the Sheet Set Manager. Okay, so at this point I'm going to take another pause to change the focus of this talk to sheet label automation. One of the biggest challenges we face as designers is trying to get projects done as quickly and efficiently as possible to make our companies more competitive in the marketplace. We want to be able to focus primarily on the design as opposed to tracking minor labeling changes and making endless minor adjustments to sheet text, especially for large projects containing many sheets in a plan set. That's one of the major reasons we're using Civil 3D to begin with, right? Because of its power to dynamically update model elements and labeling for a host of interconnected intelligent objects. But the tools I'm covering today can help with that kind of efficiency too, and the funny thing is they've been in AutoCAD all along, since before Civil 3D was even rolled out to the public. It's just that many firms found it difficult to implement Sheet Set Manager because of some of the nuances in thinking required in the approach and the various elements that need to be in place to be successful. Like how do block attributes play into this, and fields, and how do we get the title block to work in concert with the sheet set. Maybe you've tried to make sheet set automation work in the past and just couldn't get past some of the seeming difficulty of getting the title block to play nice with the sheet set. And because so many firms are in such a hurry to produce, they just might not have found the time to dedicate to learning how to overcome the complications of automating plan set labels using Sheet Set Manager. So that's my goal for the rest of this class, is to show you how to make it all work in the least complicated way I can explain it. To take full advantage of the tools that allow sheet label automation, there is some front-end setup. I'm going to go through some of that now. In a nutshell though, it all starts in the sheet set's properties. So first I'm going to show you how to set up custom properties, both generic properties for any project and properties specific to a particular project, and then I'll show you how we can use block attributes in our title block to connect to them and achieve the title block automation, the automatic sheet label updating we're after. What I do next here is going to seem counterproductive based on what we've done already, but in the scheme of things it's going to be the easiest way to get to a well-functioning sheet set template quickly that you can use over and over again. There are still nuances worth discussing after the presentation during the Q&A session maybe, depending on the size of your firm and how many people are collaborating on a given project, but the method I'm showing now is a quick way to get started regardless. So the seemingly counterproductive and weird thing I'm going to do now is erase all of my plans from my sheet set. I'm doing this even though I had them all set up and numbered correctly already. It looks like I'm ruining the plan set, at least for the purposes of the current project. And yes, that's true, but it only took me a few minutes to get to the point I was at, importing existing sheets from the layouts in my current project and renaming and renumbering them, so it won't be that hard to get back to this point for this project in a little while. And if I just spend the small amount of time that it might take me to make some other kinds of changes to this soon-to-be mostly blank sheet set, I can come away with a sheet set template that will not only begin paying off in my current project, but in every project coming down the pike after this as well. So after I delete all of the actual layouts here, but keep the subheadings or subsets, I'll right-click on the sheet set name, which I named after my project originally, and I'll choose Properties down at the bottom of the right-click menu. In the resulting dialog, the same one that we got to through the wizard before, I'm going to change the name of the sheet set to a generic name representative of the fact that this sheet set is to become a template for creating other project-specific sheet sets in the future. I'll call it 2021 Ourco sheet set template, Ourco being the generic name of my company. After I rename it, I'll verify and make note of the location where it's stored so that I can find it later. Remember, a sheet set file has a DST extension. So one thing to understand about the sheet set properties dialog is that it allows us to connect to our design drawing template and other types of templates to pull things in that may be useful. The model view row is one such connector I'll return to, but only as a connection to a specific project. It's not a connection I want to have mapped to the same location for every project. Same with the page setup overrides file. I may want to override my layout setups from time to time when printing, but not in every project. Most times I'll be sending things to the same old printer or PDF file printing engine every time. No, the only thing I'll need to map right away is the thing that will be constant from project to project when using this sheet set template. The template to use to create new sheets for the sheet set with the right layouts already included. In fact, this might not even be necessary if all I'm ever going to do with this template is create sheet sets that consist of layouts that are already created in project files that exist elsewhere. But I could start every new project one of two ways. I could use the sheet set manager to create a drawing containing my basic starting layouts and then begin adding elements to that file. Or I could use the sheet set template to simply open a blank sheet set with no layouts in it and add the layouts from an already established design drawing as we've already seen. So that part is up to your company. Do they expect you to have a design drawing already started at this point with layouts already started as well? Or do they want you to use the sheet set manager to begin each new project design file? Either way, the layouts with the right title blocks will be there from the outset because they come from the design drawing template. And either way, it's good to populate that file in the mapping here so that you can use Sheet Set Manager to create new layouts on the fly from the design template using the custom title block. So I'll set the mapping here to find my design template location on the company server. Okay, did you understand that? Because that was probably the most complicated concept so far. If you understood that, then we're most of the way there. And if you didn't quite get it yet, that's okay too. I think it will become more apparent as we progress. The things listed here in these rows under project control, these are sheet set properties we could populate with values, different values for each project, and then we can pull those values into labels in our plan sets. But some of the properties we're going to have in our template are custom properties that don't already exist here. And I like to keep all of my sheet set properties in one spot to make things less confusing in later steps. So I'm going to use this button, Edit Custom Properties, to populate all of the properties I will pull data from in future projects. So if one of the title block values I want is, say, project number, I'll create another property for it down here with the rest of the custom properties I'm creating for organizational purposes primarily. So in my title block, I currently have 16 pieces of information that I want to be able to change easily from one central location, my sheet set, in every future project. I have a sheet number label that I want to be different on each page of my plan set. I have an address for my company, but there are 3 different company locations, and depending on which one of our offices produced the plans, I've broken this out into 3 separate lines that can be changed from project to project. The address number and street, the city, state, and zip, and the company phone number. Then there's a line for the project owner's name, the project city name, and the project town and county name, a sheet title, a project number, original submittal date, initials of the person drawing the plans and the person checking the plans in-house, and then some lines for revision submittal dates that need to change from project to project. I'm actually going to add one more of those in a minute to show you how to set up a proper attribute for this. These attributes will each have to contain another element that allows the attribute to pull information from sheet set properties. This element is an AutoCAD field. Fields pull drawing data into labels and attributes, data like object properties and sheet set properties among other things. I'll demonstrate how to connect fields to sheet set properties in a few moments as well. I'll populate the third revision date here too to get that set up before I go create the attribute. It's best to set up these sheet set properties first so that you only have to edit the attributes once as you create them. This is the easiest way to connect the attributes to their appropriate counterpart properties located here. And that's because if these properties are not here first, there won't be anything to connect the attributes to on the other side. Also, it might be worth noting here that we can either associate a custom property we are creating to an individual sheet or to an entire sheet set. We choose sheet set for any custom properties we want to populate the same on every sheet in the set. Associating a property to a single sheet is what happens for page numbers or other things like the sheet title that are going to be different from page to page but are still mappable. But I don't have to create a custom property for page number here or sheet title because the program does that automatically. I'll show you how to map the page numbers and titles of each sheet to the fields already built into Civil 3D and AutoCAD when we get to the fields discussion soon. Anyway, here's what the sheet set properties dialog box ends up looking like with all of the properties populated. Okay, so now that I have the properties built into the sheet set, I can go back to the title block and make the connections to my attributes. But which version of the title block? The one that lives in its own drawing file, or the version in my drawing template that's already a block definition? Well, it turns out I'm closer to the final result if I use the version that's already a block definition in my design template. So that's seemingly the best place to make these changes if time is of value. It's actually easier to do from here for another reason as well. If I create the attributes in the original title block drawing where the border or other static elements were originally drawn, even if I add the field element, I won't be able to access the sheet set properties I've already created. It just doesn't work to do it there. It does work though if I open the title block for editing in the block editor from within the design template, as long as I'm not in that actual design template file. Okay, well, what do I mean by not doing it in the actual design template file? That's very confusing. Why not? Well, here I run into one of the biggest reasons companies give up on creating their own custom sheet set templates with automated labeling. The problem being the company design template is actually the file I want to update so that my custom attribute fields connect to my custom sheet set properties, but AutoCAD is actually set up to prohibit me from doing that in a DWT file so that my drawing template won't end up being associated with a single DST file only. So I actually need to make these particular edits in a drawing layout created from or added to this sheet set containing the same exact title block that exists in my design template, but I can't use the one in my design template itself. Yes, it's confusing, but this was built into the programming on purpose by Autodesk for the reason I mentioned. We don't want our design template mapped to only a single sheet set file, or we would never be able to use it with the sheet set files we create from the template. It makes sense, but I'll tell you, it was a hard thing to wrap my mind around at first too. So to overcome this limitation, I'll create a new drawing in my sheet set now from my design template, which is already mapped to this sheet set as the source for new layouts, if you remember from a few minutes ago. I set that up as I was renaming and setting up my current sheet set properties. I can do this by right-clicking on the sheet name in the sheet set manager and choosing New Sheet. This makes a new file from my company template. This is where I'll edit the block to connect any unconnected attributes via their fields, or add new attributes and add fields to them and connect them to custom sheet set properties, or just edit which fields in which attributes are connected to which custom properties. By the way, my attributes all have fields already, and those fields are already mapped to sheet set properties, so I'll create a new one to demonstrate quickly. I plan to connect it to the custom sheet set property I created new today, the one I called Date of Rev 3 Submittal, my Revision 3 property. I'll want to memorize or make note of the exact syntax I used when I created the property in case of a problem that can sometimes come up in the field dialog box. So to create the attribute, I'll use the Define Attributes command, and there I'll create a tag and a prompt, and in the value cell I'll click the Create Field button that allows me to add a field to an attribute. In the Fields dialog, I need to make sure I set the property type I'm looking for to Current Sheet Set Custom, so the program will allow me to access the custom fields in my current sheet set. Then I'll be provided with this drop-down where I should be able to select the custom sheet set property by name, as long as this drawing was created from my sheet set. But sometimes I've noticed this dialog doesn't populate fully or at all. If it doesn't, simply type the name of the custom property exactly as it is spelled and capitalized in the Sheet Set Manager properties, which is why I wrote it down a few minutes ago. Also, while we're here, I want to point out that if I have properties that are not custom properties, like the sheet number and the sheet title, I can choose these settings on screen specifically so that I can access the properties that are built into AutoCAD for this purpose. Again, these are the properties that I didn't need to create as custom properties. I told you earlier that they are already here, and so I can just map to them separately, and so that's what I'm showing you at this moment. So I'll do that, and then I'm done, unless I'm planning on changing the case of the letters via the field translation or something like that. After I click OK in this dialog, I also need to set the size of the attribute text, pick the right font, and make the rest of the usual choices for creating attributes. I'll choose to specify its location on screen and set it here under the other revision attributes. Then I'll leave the block editor, being careful to save my changes, and save the file. What I need to do next is make my design template file current. Remember, it's the file called 2021 C3D design.dwt, and then harvest the block I edited in my temporary file, the one I called testtest.dwg, and created from inside my sheet set. In other words, I need to insert the revised title block with the mapped sheet set properties back into my design template. When I was filming my video, I had yet to understand how to insert a block from the Libraries tab of the new version of the Insert Block Palette dialog box in AutoCAD. So as a workaround here, you see me inserting the new version of the title block into my temporary file called testtest, even though I already have the block on the layouts there. I did this so that I could then go back to the Insert palette and pull the revised definition of the block from the Recent tab of the palette instead of the Libraries tab, because inserting it anywhere in this file makes it a quote-unquote recent block in this CAD session. So then I make my design template file current because it's here that I want to insert the revised title block definition. I have to make sure to redefine my title block definition, and then I can insert the new definition from the Recent tab of the block palette. I place it off to the side because I didn't bother deleting the old version that was already present on the layout paper. But even so, you can see there's no third attribute for revision dates added. That's because even though I've inserted the new title block definition, the old version of the block attributes need to be synced to the revised attribute definitions. The takeaway here is that blocks and attributes sync separately, even though the attributes live inside the block. Anyway, after using the synchronized attributes command to update the block, selecting one of the title block objects as the block to sync, and then verifying my selection by saying yes at the second prompt in the command, I select the extra version of the title block, the one that's off to the side here, and use the delete key to erase it from the drawing, and zoom in to see the version of the block on my paper layout update with the new revision date attribute for third revisions. I'll save my design template file at this point and close the block insert palette. Next, I'm going to open one other file I need to update, because I also want to demonstrate using the new version of the title block with the plan production tools in Civil 3D for making plan and profile sheets. I'll browse for my 2021 plan and profile 24 by 36 inch plan production template that contains plan and profile viewports at the right scales for creating automated plan and profile sheets. In order to create these PNP sheets with the same automated sheet set labels I'm using in the regular drawing design template, I also need to make sure that this template file contains my current title block mapped with the proper attribute field connectors. When the file opens, this time I delete the old title block from one of the layouts and relaunch the block insert palette so I can insert the revised version of the title block from the Recent tab of the palette like I did before. After redefining the block definition and placing the block where it goes, I'll save and close the file, making sure to save the changes upon exiting the drawing, close the block insert palette again, and then I right-click on the temporary file I called testtest in the sheet set and choose Remove Sheet to remove it from the sheet set so that it won't be getting recreated as a sheet in all the sheet sets I create from this set in the future. Remember, the sheet set I'm using currently is actually meant to be my sheet set template, so I don't want any extra artifacts in it. Then I'll close the testtest drawing file. Saving it or not, it doesn't really matter because I don't need it anymore. In fact, here, I go into the Windows Explorer and find the temporary testtest file and delete it and its backup file so as not to wonder why it's here in the future if I forget why I created it. I'll click Save again on my design drawing template file to make sure I saved the new title block definition there, and now that my drawing template files and my sheet set template are all updated and ready to go, I'll close the sheet set template from the Sheet Set Manager by right-clicking on it and choosing Close Sheet Set. Now in the Sheet Set Manager, I'll click the Open drop-down again like I did at the beginning of my presentation and choose New Sheet Set to try and create my first actual project sheet set from my new DST template. This means that when the wizard comes up this time, instead of choosing to create from existing drawings like I did at first, I'm going to create a sheet set using an example sheet set. I'll browse to where my sheet set template is stored, the DST file that we've made. I'll select it, and on the next page of the wizard, I'll give it my design project's name, any description it might need, and I'll store the new project DST in the correct project file location as per my company's protocols. I can immediately go into it using the Sheet Set Properties button in the wizard I showed you earlier and put in the pertinent project information for each value cell in the custom properties. Incidentally, with regard to model views, I'll populate the model views row in this project-specific sheet set with the folder location of any design drawings I've created or plan to create that contain any named views. I can then access these named views from the Model Views tab of the Sheet Set Manager for a special purpose I plan to demonstrate in a few moments. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with creating viewports using Sheet Set Manager. Now I'll click OK, hit Next, and Finish, and create my new sheet set. Because my sheet set template didn't contain any layouts, my sheet set is created with only my subset headings for construction and landscape, and here I can start adding layouts from my design file. Or I can add new layouts from my design drawing template, like I did when I created my temporary attribute field connector file I set up to make title block attribute edits a few minutes ago. If I do it that way, remember to make a new sheet, I also right-click on the name of the sheet set and choose New Sheet instead of Import Layout as Sheet. Then I pick a layout from my design template and carry on with renaming and renumbering and reordering sheets and so on. Notice that everything populates per my custom project properties in the sheet set, and after I bring in some other layouts from my already in progress design file, I can see those pages update with the current project information as well, including any rename and renumber edits I make on the fly. So everything's working. If the edits don't appear immediately, perform a regen all to update all sheets in the current drawings at once. Then you should be able to see all of the custom data appearing in the title block from our sheet set's custom properties. One other thing, if I create a new layout through the Sheet Set Manager, remember I said I could use named views? And remember I mapped to a design file that had named views in it through the Model Views row in the properties of the sheet set? Well, the functionality available to me here is that if I go to the Model Views tab in the Sheet Set Manager, I can add a location, choose the file that has the layouts I want. And by the way, that Model Views row in the Properties dialog box allowed me to choose a folder, not just a specific drawing file, so I could actually pull named views from any one of a number of design drawings if they're all in the same project file. Anyway, I'll add those locations here from the Model Views tab, and in this case I'm just going to pick my design file because that's the only design file I have at the moment, and I'll choose one of my named views, and I can literally drag it onto a sheet and create a viewport from it, and select the viewport scale on the fly. So this is a really handy way to quickly create viewports if you remember to make some named views containing the elements and layers that you'd like to have present in a viewport, and you can do all of that from inside the design file as you're designing. One last thing, I'm going to create plan and profile sheets now as well and add them to the plan set. So here I'll go to the Output tab of the Civil 3D ribbon and choose Create View Frames, and jump through all the settings here. Again, I mentioned I'm not going to really spend any time on the Civil 3D settings. I just want to point out that I go choose my Plan Production template, which also has Plan Production files in it, with viewports already set up at the proper scale, and with the same title block that I edited earlier and placed both here and in my design template file. So I'll finish populating the Create View Frames wizard and then go through the steps in the Create Sheets wizard as well. And when my plan and profile sheets get created based off the view frames that follow my alignment, each of these sheets can be appended to or added to the sheet set I already have in process. And I can either create each new sheet in its own drawing file or add them to this current drawing or put them all in another plan and profile drawing. But regardless, I can manage it all through the sheet set manager and add it all to the same sheet set. I'll probably need to rename and renumber all the sheets once I get them into the sheet set. Then maybe make a new subset or add them to a subset. But as you can see, they too take all of the custom properties and populate the labels automatically from the sheet set custom properties and renumber and rename the same as the other sheets in my set. So I hope this was useful for you. I'd like to think that I covered most of the bases for just creating a sheet set quickly, getting started on a template quickly, and some of the more difficult things about automating sheet set labeling. And at this point, I'd like to end the presentation and open it up for question and answer. So if you have any questions, please feel free to chat them at this time. And thanks very much for attending today's presentation, and best of luck in your future endeavors with Civil 3D and AutoCAD.